Your mother and your brothers are standing outside wanting to speak to you. And he replied, Who is my mother and who are my brothers? Pointing to his disciples, he said, Here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my mother and my brother and my sister and my mother. Whoever does the will of my Father in heaven. Now, understandably, that didn't mean that wasn't his mother. He was indicating there were more mothers in that group. Just like this morning, my mother of earthly origin, plus other mothers of earthly origin, but of the church, are here this morning. Amen? See, if Mary had understood the task of Jesus, she would have tried to interrupt him and even agree with his unbelieving brothers that his ministry needed to be tempered. Stopping the ministry of Jesus even for a little while. She's going to interrupt his ministry? That would be a mistake. You've made mistakes in the past. You're certainly going to make some more mistakes later, right? Maybe even one or two today. You're probably going to make more mistakes tomorrow. But through it all, are you ready for this? Even through your mistakes, even through your misgivings, even through your misjudgments, even through your misbehavior, God's still going to love you. Amen? He's still going to love you. He's still willing to work with you as he's working on you. Through it all, your task of mothering, of grandmothering, it will be accomplished. You may have made mistakes. And maybe you're one of those kind of parents that think, maybe if I'd done this different, my son or my daughter wouldn't have been turned out this way or that way or another way. Some of you might even be saying, boy, I was such a terrible parent. I'm surprised that my kids turned out as good as they did. Amen. How many women have been discouraged by the last few words of a proverb? And I'm talking about Proverb 31. Listen to this. I mean, if there is, it is there that the author writes about this perfect woman. There are 22 lines in this poem, and each one of them begins with the successive letters of the Hebrew alphabet. It's an acrostic poem that speaks of an imaginary woman. Now, I use this in weddings all the time. Most people don't quite catch the implication. But in the poem, she manages, get this. Let's see, where's my list? There you go. Oh, okay, here it goes. She never sleeps. She always works. Okay, so that's part of the poem. That is reality. Never sleeps, always works. But in the poem, she manages fleets of ships. She runs a farm. She manages a staff. She sews like a fashionista. She cooks, she cleans. She homeschools the children. And she has a feast waiting on her husband when he arrives at home from a much less demanding job. And she doesn't need a car for the carpool whatsoever. She doesn't need one. She simply puts on her supermom coat, her cape, right? And she flies them to the next appointment and brings them back home. Isn't that how it works? I mean, if we were to see an English version of this, that we could see the Hebrew, maybe perhaps the poem would be like this. A is for apple, the pie that she bakes. B is for babies that she loves. C is for the cleaning of the house. B, right on down to the Z for the zoo that she manages all back in the backyard. Any woman who tries to emulate that woman in Proverbs 31 will understand the first line that says, like, what's the first line? You ready for this? So, wait, Sister Christine, you were in the wedding. Sister Bob, you were in a wedding, and I use this. A wife like this, who can find? Now, usually the bride thinks, oh, they're speaking so wonderful of me. But wait a second, that would be a heavy load for you to bear. Supermom on the way, amen? Next, a mother called by God never relinquishes her title. I have to tell you, how many of you remember The Passion. Mel Gibson's The Passion. And I've watched it a couple times, but the last 2 times I watched it, just so you know, I love Jesus, amen. But I watched his mother. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother. Listen to what I'm telling you. Remember that little girl, that little teenage girl, so many years before, she was told she was going to have a child. She knew the prophecy. She pondered what this might mean in her heart. And can you imagine the anguish and the anxiety she felt even as a teenager? And certainly as the baby was to be born and all the things that happened. And while they're running off to Egypt to hide out to try to protect this baby, although she knew that she was going to protect this baby, just to grow up and to be rejected and beaten and bruised and crucified. And Mary did not stand stoically and passively by the foot of the cross. She didn't stand there like she was made out of stained glass. She collapsed at the foot of that cross. She crumbled. She fell down to the very depths of her soul right there. Moaning, wailing, begging for the God of heaven to stop her hell on earth. You see, the truth of Simeon's prophecy at the birth of Jesus was suddenly true. The cross absolutely cut deep into Mary's heart. But despite the pain, Mary was there. Despite her anguish, despite all that she was feeling, she was right there. She was a mother right from the beginning, and she was a mother at the end. The mother called by God never relinquishes the title. Now you're going to find mothers like that in the halls of Children's Hospital. You'll find mothers like that in funeral homes and in counselor's office. Mothers never relinquish that title, even if the child is rebellious, even when the child is harsh. Her heart just will not allow it. Not when she's called by God. Sometimes the most difficult decision a mother will ever make comes right at the beginning. There continues to be that brave young woman who realizes under the rarest of circumstances that the best gift that they could ever give their child is the gift of adoption. Now listen to what I'm saying here. It's all over the world. The painful giving of a baby is a whole lot like the painful giving of a son on the cross. But I think that is better than the other alternative. To not allow the baby to come. Even at that moment of giving, a mother's love dominates the scene. It's a sacrificial, painful type of a love. But it's a loving moment of care. And mothers who give their children to families patiently standing in the line of love need to be applauded. They need to be loved. They need to be recognized. You see, when a woman becomes a mother, when a man becomes a father, there is an instant realization that the day will almost certainly come when pain, suffering, disappointment is going to dominate the scene. Hey, someone said to every dark cloud there's a. But did you know to every bright cloud there's also a dark underside? Just to be clear, there are no perfect children. There are no perfect families. There's only one perfect God. Jesus said that he wasn't even good. He said, why callest thou me good? There's only one who's good. So does that mean that you don't have to try to be good? I'm not saying that. Don't be taking that as a license to do whatever thou will. No. So wait, you see, so